Families tell stories the way painters use brushes, carefully, deliberately, with strokes meant to flatter, not expose. We hang portraits on our walls like trophies, choosing which faces will be remembered and which will quietly fade. But sometimes, no matter how tightly you curate a gallery, a painting resurfaces. It began the summer after my grandmother passed. The family home, the old estate where generations had lived and died, had to be cleared. My mother asked me to help sort through the attic. I thought it would be an afternoon of dust, boxes, and nostalgia. Instead, it became the day I learned that my family tree had roots tangled in forbidden love. The attic groaned under the weight of memory. Dust motes danced in shafts of light that cut through cracked wood. The air was heavy, almost suffocating, like secrets had been trapped there for decades. I moved carefully between boxes of linens and faded Bibles, careful not to trip on warped floorboards. And then, leaning against the farthest wall, I saw it, a frame covered in a sheet, taller than me, forgotten in shadow. I pulled back the cloth. Dust erupted into the air, and there it was. A portrait. At first glance, it was my great-grandfather. The face was unmistakable, his jawline, the proud tilt of his head, the same piercing eyes that stared down from other portraits lining the hall downstairs. But this painting was different. Because he wasn't alone. A woman stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder, her body angled toward him with an intimacy that startled me. Her face was soft yet strong, her eyes alive with something my great-grandmother's portraits never held, defiance, tenderness, desire. And his smile, God, his smile. I had only ever seen him cold, stern, almost carved from stone. But here, he was alive. Smiling the way a man only smiles when he is completely, dangerously in love. My heart raced. This woman was not my great-grandmother. This was someone else. Someone my family had painted out of history. I searched the bottom of the canvas, and there, almost hidden under grime, I found her name. Caroline. The sound of it in my head was electric, forbidden. I carried the painting downstairs, ignoring the dust staining my shirt. My mother was in the kitchen, sorting dishes. When she saw it, the color drained from her face as if I dragged a ghost into the room. "Where did you find this?" she whispered. "In the attic." "Who is she?" Her hands shook as she set down a plate. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, her voice broke the silence like glass. She was never supposed to exist. Her words hit harder than any shout. My throat tightened. "What do you mean?" But she turned away, her eyes glistening. Some stories were meant to stay buried. She wouldn't say more. That night, I couldn't sleep. The painting leaned against my bedroom wall, Caroline's eyes following me no matter where I moved. Who was she? Why had she been erased? And why did my mother tremble just to say her name? I had to know. The next week, I dug into archives, local records, anything that could help me. At the library, I searched newspapers from nearly a century ago. Hours passed, my fingers stained with ink, until I finally saw it. An announcement. A charity gala, hosted by my great-grandfather. The article listed him as newly engaged to a woman named Caroline Whitfield. My chest tightened. Not my great-grandmother. Caroline. I kept reading. But within months of that announcement, everything changed. My great-grandfather's wedding didn't happen with Caroline. Instead, the records showed he married another woman, my great-grandmother. Caroline's name vanished from the papers, as though she had never existed. But portraits don't lie. The one in my room proved she was real. Proved she mattered. So what happened? I pressed my mother again. She resisted at first, but one night, over tea, the truth cracked through her defenses. "Your great-grandfather loved her," she said softly. Loved her more than anyone else. But Caroline wasn't from a family of means. She wasn't acceptable to the Whitmores. Our name carried weight. Status. Her name carried none. So they erased her? I asked bitterly. They forced him to marry someone else. An alliance between two wealthy families. Caroline was cast aside. But he never let her go, not in his heart. That painting was proof of that. I swallowed hard. Then why hide it? Her eyes lowered. Because love like that is dangerous. It makes people question everything we were built on. And some truths, my dear, have sharp edges. Her words cut deep. But they only made me more determined. Weeks later, I traveled to Caroline's hometown. The Whitfield name had all but disappeared, but in the churchyard, I found it, an unadorned grave. The stone was weathered, her name barely visible, Caroline Whitfield, 1902 to 1928. 26 years old. That was all she got. I asked the caretaker if he knew her story. His eyes softened, as though recalling a local ghost. Caroline Whitfield? Died young, poor girl. Rumor was she died of heartbreak. Some said she took ill. Others whispered she couldn't bear the shame. My stomach twisted. She had been discarded, erased, and forgotten. But the painting proved she had been loved. I sat by her grave until sunset, promising myself that her story wouldn't remain hidden. When I returned home, my mother tried to convince me to put the portrait back in the attic. But I refused. This is part of our family, I told her. This is part of me. Tears filled her eyes, but she nodded. And so, against tradition, I hung the painting in the main hall, right beside the other ancestors who had been chosen to be remembered. Caroline's eyes now stared out proudly, defiantly, as if reclaiming the place that was stolen from her. Every guest who visits asks about her. Every time, I tell the truth. Caroline was loved. Caroline was erased. But Caroline endures.